Turn that off, please. Good evening, everybody. We are just waiting on one more planning board member to join us so that we can begin tonight's public hearing. In the meantime, I would like to make sure that everybody's aware that this presentation tonight will be recorded, both audio and video. Folks are participating in two ways tonight. We have the GoToWebinar app that it appears that most people are participating through. This will allow you to work from either your web browser or from your mobile device. You should be able to see tonight's presentation and ask questions when invited to do so. Folks may also participate in listen-only mode by phone, and they will unfortunately not be able to ask questions through that method. Tonight, if you're going to ask any questions during the public hearing, the acting chair, Michael Schaefer, has asked that you please announce your name and help us with the spelling so that we can have accurate records for tonight's meeting. And the meeting should hopefully begin shortly. Thank you. For folks who have just recently joined us, we are waiting on one more planning board member. We're going to give just a few more moments to see if we can get our supermajority quorum so that we can begin this public hearing.
I haven't been able to reach her, Brian. I've tried 3 times.
I was just going to say, Mr. Chairman, how do you want to proceed?
Um, I would like to wait till 7:30 and then reschedule if possible.
That's your call, sir.
Do you think, Mike, 7:30 is a little bit long? We've been sitting here for 20 minutes or so. I don't mind. I'm just questioning, is 7:30 too long?
Maybe we could take a break for 10 minutes and check back at 7:30. Would that be better? I just would hate to miss this opportunity if she's really having a hard time getting to a computer or I don't know what's happened, you know. The only thing
What do you think, Deb?
I think it's almost 7:20 and we've waited 20 minutes. And Mike, if you're even unsuccessful in getting her on the phone, I question if she's going to attend.
Okay, so two of you both think it's a good idea to adjourn, so I'm okay with that. Brian, how do we reschedule this for another time?
I feel like the board needs to find a date that works, but you do have your applicant on this conference call. Would you like me to unmute the applicant so that you can have that conversation with them?
Yes, please.
One moment. So we have unmuted Mike Zimmer, Drew Vardakis.
Good afternoon, good evening. It's Mike Zimmer.
Hi, Mike.
How are you?
Well, I was pretty happy until we didn't get a quorum, so I thought
Yeah, it's
getting this all set
the
up.
product is great. Yeah, we'd be very eager to reschedule this as soon as possible if that's the direction the board wants to go in. We're also willing to just review with the folks on the line the site plan to kind of refresh everyone's memory if that has any benefit to the board. But I'll leave it up to your discretion as to how best proceed. Of course, we'd be most interested in being able to proceed tonight, but I understand why that can't happen if we don't have a quorum.
Mike, I just had one question. I maybe an update on where you're at right now. You could tell us. I see some work being done there, so if you could let us know that.
Yeah, and is it possible to get Joe Fioli unmuted? Because I'll have him speak to some of the kind of site work that has initiated. Of course, the project and the site plan, which is effectively unchanged from what was approved in April 2018, has been closed by Soltage Financing, and we had intended to go into formal construction this month, March. When we went to pull the building permit at the county, as a surprise to us, anticipating that the permit had a shelf life of 2 years. However, the Irving bylaw restricted that to 1 year. That's brought us to this point here, requesting for the issuance of a new permit. Joe, if you're unmuted, can you talk a bit about why there's some activity at the site and how that's been communicated to the town and authorized?
Sure. Yep, sure, no problem. Hi, everyone. Joe Fioli, Soltage. We received a notice from approval from the Franklin County building inspector that we can go ahead with site work. So just minimal work out there as far as the access road goes, a track out pad and some tree clearing and whatnot. But that's pretty much it. Just some initial site work. That's what they granted us without having the permit.
I see. Oh, thank you, Joe. I just was, I had noticed it.
You're
and
welcome.
I was wondering. Thank you. I guess I'm happy to, how about a week from
Mike.
now? Is that a good time? I'm sorry. Yes,
Sorry, Mr.
Brian?
Chairman. We're getting a few questions in the chat room from people who are attending your meeting. And there's a question from one of the abutting property owners that is asking why equipment has been placed on her property.
Brian, are you able to say who that is just for the minutes? Who's asking
Absolutely.
the question?
The question is being asked by Susan Brereton, and the last name is spelled Brereton.
Thank you.
Before we answer that, I just wanted to give folks a heads up that if you are on the online version, this is Mariah Kurtz talking, there is a little hand signal. If you click that, it'll give you a hand raise that the organizers can see, and we'll be able to unmute you so you can speak if you have a question you'd like to ask.
I'd like to hear more about the equipment being parked on someone else's property.
Oh, Susan's raising her hand. I believe Susan would be happy to ask that question if you're okay with me unmuting her.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, one moment. Susan, there's a red microphone next to your name. If you click it, it should turn green and you should be able to speak. You're on, Susan. Susan, can you hear us? Well, Susan may be having mic problems.
Okay.
But she has been putting her question by text into the chat room, and she just clarified that she's heir to the Patla family. I believe that maybe would be the landowner. And Patla is spelled P-A-T-L-A.
So did she say what equipment was parked on the property?
Susan, if you can hear Mr. Moonlight's question, if you want to put it in the chat, I'd be happy to communicate it for you. Susan is responding that her family has observed a bobcat and similar equipment on the property.
Okay. Is there someone that could give an answer to that? Someone from the project?
Yeah, hi, it's Joe Fioli with Soltage. We're not aware of any equipment on any other property, but we'll give the contractor a call right now and confirm that if there is any equipment on any other property than the project property, we'll make them remove it right away.
Okay.
Thank
I
you.
mean, I think that it's a legitimate request, you know, based on the neighbor's property, but it could just be a misunderstanding. So, yeah.
Yeah, of course. There shouldn't be any equipment on any other properties besides the project property, but we'll get it squared away right now.
Mr. Chairman, you also have a question from Mr. Warren Borden. Is it okay to unmute?
Yes, please.
Mr. Boyden, if you click the red microphone next to your name, it should unmute you and you can ask your question.
Hi, it's Jackie. We
Oh,
switched headphones, so
there you
we're
go.
both listening, but it's me.
It's good to
There
hear.
isn't. I just wanted to answer the question about the equipment on the property. There isn't any when we look out our window. So it's all up in our back field now. If that answers the question.
So Jackie, hi, it's Moonlight. So there is no equipment from the project on anyone else's property?
No, it's all in our back field now. They built the road and it's all up there right now.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, could you ask that the lady if that, if she's satisfied with what's being said, or is it right or whatever by her account?
I will pass that question along.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Moonlight.
And Susan has one follow-up question. The question is, it's almost a two-part. The question is there work being done to widen the road or to take more land away?
Brian, could she clarify what road? I'm assuming she's talking about the access road.
I'm not. I just wanted to let
So-
you know there was no computer.
The first response I'm getting, I'm asking the question now, the first response, Deb, to your question was Poplar Mountain Road.
Okay.
So I would just acknowledge on that, the widening of a public way falls under the Highway Department and the Board of Selectmen, and so there's no widening of Poplar Mountain Road. But I can't speak access to this property.
From the project company, yeah, we will not be doing any widening of Poplar Mountain Road. We don't have the jurisdiction to or need to do that. So we can answer clearly now.
Susan says, thanks, that's great.
Great. Are there any other questions, or does it make sense to try to identify a new date for this hearing?
Yes, I don't know. Oh, wait, I got Sun He on the line. Oh. Good, can you join us? Yeah. Okay, the last from Mariah, it has you go to the town website. No, you don't have to go to the town account. You just click on her link and it should take you. All right, thank you. I'll stay on the phone and try to help you. Thank you. 7:30, she's trying to get in. That's good.
As soon as we see her come in the chat room, we'll get her all set up.
Okay. So it should bring you right to the planning board. Yeah, it would be from Mariah, and it would have. No, you can use your email once you get in there. Having any luck? No, just put in your, go to your normal email, your Gmail. She sent you an email to that. Yeah.
Mike, I'm not sure if it is in her Gmail or in her.
I forwarded it to her.
Okay.
We have trouble getting to our emails sometimes. Yeah. Okay, good. So that should take you to the Irving website where you can connect to the webinar. Yes, and you put in your email address and then Brian will send you an invite. I think at the bottom. Or yeah, go to webinar. Yeah. Yes, and then at the bottom, I think is where maybe you put your, yeah. Oh, you did. I don't think you need to install any. Maybe you do this on your computer the first.
Yeah, it seems like she may have to install it.
Yeah. Yes, I can. Yeah. I could put you on speaker and you could hear what's going on.
Mike, is she having trouble getting in?
Yes, she is. She's got to install a webinar, a web. Oh, you're on your phone. Okay. All right. Yeah.
Let's try to install it.
Is Sunhee able to hear us if we get started while she's on the phone?
Yes, I can hear you guys.
Okay. Can we call the meeting to order then?
Yes.
Public hearing.
Or,
Public.
yeah.
Yeah, Brian, did you want to call it to the public meeting hearing to order?
So you're going to call it to order at 7:36?
Yes.
And Mr. Chairman, while you were working with Sunhee to join, one more question came in from Susan. And she just wants to know if there will be any utility work that's going to be done on the properties along Poplar Mountain Road related to this project.
Joe and Mike, you can but I think some of the poles have to be updated along the road.
Yeah, that's right. And I believe there was a poll hearing with your board, with the utility company Eversource. And so the poles that exist on Poplar Mountain Road will be upgraded to new poles to carry the wire to the solar project. So the footprint will be the same, but new poles will be erected in place of, I believe, 4 poles, Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, that are on that property currently.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, did you want us to have the applicant go over any of the plans or show any of the plans? We can make the applicant a presenter.
Yes, please. And just a review for everybody. I think Mike started out, but our special permit in our bylaw is only good for 1 year. And we issued it in 2018, so it passed in 2019. And now they revised the law so that it can be extended to 3 years. And long-term, that is, you know, I think our goal is to rewrite the special permit bylaw for big projects like this so that you have more than 1 year to start it, because it takes a long time to get all the things in ducks in a row on a project like this. So I'll turn that, Mike, maybe I'll turn it over to you and you can go through your presentation, please.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mike, I'm gonna make you a presenter and then you should be able to share the screen that you want to share.
Okay, thank you.
It looks like Susan is wondering where the current polls are.
Those are the poles on Poplar Mountain Road that come basically off of Northfield Road and are along the southern edge of Poplar Mountain Road, the existing utility poles that are there.
Okay. Susan, does that answer your question?
Yeah, it looks like Sunhee's been able to join us, so I will unmute Sunhee.
Okay.
You made it.
Yes.
I'm going to let you go.
Okay, thank you. All
Bye.
right.
And Susan said that did answer her question. Thank you.
Have I been granted access to share my screen? I haven't, oh, there we go.
Mike, did you get an invitation to become a presenter?
I did. I just accepted it. Is my
perfect.
screen being shown?
Yeah, it is.
Yes,
Sir.
yes, it's very
I
busy.
have,
That
is
poor
it an
dog.
image of, can you see a Google Earth image now of the property?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I thought I would start there just to familiarize everybody on the call from the board, as well as a public participation of where this property is. And I really wanted to thank everybody for spending their Friday night with us under these extraordinary times. And this ability to do this virtually is remarkable, and really thank you to the town and the planning board for setting this up. We really appreciate it. Just to kind of recover a bit of the early discussion that we had with some equipment, sounds like bobcats that were inappropriately placed on an adjacent parcel. We will be 100% certain that does not happen moving forward, and it sounds like they have been removed, and I'm happy to hear that. The poles and the discussion about where these poles are, that would be swapped out. If you can see my cursor, hopefully you can. There's an existing utility line that Eversource owns that runs on the south side of Poplar Mountain Road. That's the same path that the wire will run from our solar project to interconnect to the grid. And so there's existing poles there that will be swapped out for new poles that can support the additional wire needed for the solar project. And as I understand, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that was discussed in a poll hearing with the board some weeks ago, but somewhat recently with Eversource Utility Company. Those are poles that they'll own, that they'll install, and through my understanding is the poll hearing process, they gain approvals to remove and install new poles there.
That's correct.
In terms of, any other questions on that?
Brian, did that go to the selectmen? Is that that's not a planning board issue, is it?
Correct, Mr. Chairman. That poll hearing came to the Board of Selectmen as the authority on those matters. We conducted the poll hearing. There were no objections stated at the poll hearing, and the Board of Selectmen authorized it, and all of that paperwork was forwarded back to Eversource several weeks ago.
Thank you.
So now hopefully you see what is our site plan. This is part of the application that was submitted on February 20th to the planning board for a special permit and site review for our 1.29 megawatt solar project. As I had started out saying earlier in this meeting, you know, we're effectively at the point where we're looking to start construction. And in getting to that point with requests for the building permit with Franklin County, it came to our attention that the special permit had expired under Irving's bylaw, getting us to the point we are here today to request a reissuance of a new permit. In terms of the application that was submitted, it is effectively identical to what was reviewed in March of 2018 and approved in April 5th of 2018, which expired a year from that date. There are some slight changes that I'll draw attention to, and after that, I'm happy to ask any other questions about the site plan. Fundamentally, the two changes result in less overall impact on the surrounding property and the property itself. The first change to the site plan, and this is the site plan that we're reviewing today that you're seeing, is the interconnection path did move from initially, if you can see my pink cursor, it had initially come through the Boyden's property and would require some tree cutting of some large pines to approach the solar project. That's been relocated by Eversource to use the existing pole infrastructure that's already there. The net gain here is there's no longer the need to cut some of these large pine trees on the Boyden's property to site the poles. We would no longer be installing additional poles to what's out there, and instead Eversource will be replacing their existing poles with new poles, as I mentioned, to carry the additional wire. That's the first change. The second change, and there are only two changes, is the clearing line was reduced slightly from 2.8 acres of tree clearing. And I know it's impossible to probably see, but if you can make out where my cursor is falling, this TC line is for the tree clearing. It was just truncated. I'm sorry, it's over here. Just following my cursor. It was truncated just a little bit in the southern portion because we're going to be preserving some of the Boyden's maple trees for the maple sugar operation. So that resulted in a net loss of 0.2 acres of tree cutting. So the tree cutting has gone from 2.8 acres to 2.6. Other than that, the access road, the location of the physical panels themselves, the location of the a cement pad where a transformer will be sited is the same, in the interconnection path coming up from Poppenone Road, using the clearance made for the access road onto the property, and eventually connecting to the system. So those are the changes. I know it's been a while since the board has seen the site plan. We're happy to answer any other questions you have about the site plan or the project or the application. But I thought that would be a good reintroduction to the project.
What do you think, Mike?
Do you have any questions, Moonlight? I'd like other people to ask. I have a couple things, but I'd like to hear from Deborah and Sunhee and in the audience. Well, if anybody has any questions.
Well, I have a couple of questions I'd like to start with. How much, you went by there, Mike, a few times and you saw the tree cutting. How's it look where they're cutting the trees down?
It's on the edge furthest from Route 63, and it looks like they've stacked up a lot of trees along that edge.
Hmm.
So that looks like that's been cut. You know, I'm sure you're gonna probably get rid of all the trees. So I don't think it will look much different than the field when it finishes. Oh.
And what about the native observer?
Well, that might, I'd like to discuss that a little later if possible.
Okay.
I'll bring that up as something, but
Okay.
those are your two bigger, the trees and the native observer. Okay.
Well, that was a start. Yeah. I mean, there's also some question about the scenic view and whether or not there should be some sort of a barrier on 63.
Well, that's one, I think that's under landscape buffer, Mike, and we had talked about that two years ago in 2000 or 2018 about the need for some kind of screening from Route 63. And the board at that time decided we didn't need screening. And I would like to put that up for discussion again, just to make sure everybody on the board is on the same page. We have in more recent projects required screening from roads. But can I turn it over to you, Moonlight, about the screening? It would be visible from two areas, one coming from Northfield, south of the, I guess that would be, as you're coming south from Northfield, you can see the field for probably, I don't know, 100 feet. Then it dips behind a hill, and then you can see the access road up at the other end.
Well, as I went down 63, as I went up, it's one of the routes I travel a lot. I recognized that going to Northfield on the left-hand side, there's a large field in Northfield. The power plant is there, and I mean, it seems that it's not really necessary if there's already one up there. If you're not hiding that one, why you hide the other one? If that makes any sense to anybody.
It makes sense to me. Debbie?
The one, Moonlight, the one that you're talking about on 63, they actually have small screening. I believe they do have small shrubbery with the intent of it growing up. I know when we talked about it last time, we didn't feel that it would be visible enough from the road to really warrant it. I'm kind of 6 of one, half dozen of the other on it. Honestly, I'm not. I think they are becoming so commonplace today that screening it's off in the back of the property. I don't think it's gonna be super noticeable from the road. So to me, I wouldn't necessarily worry about it as much.
I agree. I mean, yeah, I agree.
Sunhee, can you, can she?
I might be able to kind of address this because at the landowner's request, we will be installing some screening. If everyone can still see my screen in the Google image I have to kind of familiarize with the kind of existing condition there, the array obviously will be in the farm field fence line, which I know is kind of hard to equate exactly where it is between the site plan and the Google image. Running somewhere along here, we're going to be planting blueberry bushes along the entire length of this, behind the Boyden's home, along the fence line. So that screening will be installed at the request of the Boyden family to shield their view of the array. And I think it is worth pointing out that the existing vegetation along 63 that you can see as well as poplar. And as I mentioned, that because of our interconnection route, the large pines here don't need to come down near the roadway where it's most visible. And so my suggestion is that might be sufficient screening based on the comments I've heard to resolve any concerns about visibility.
Thank you.
I think if it was in a different section of our town, I would feel different too, but I agree with Moonlight that everything around there is relay stations and power lines, and it it really doesn't make much sense to worry too much about it. So yeah, I think the screening that you're doing for the Boydens sounds good to me. Right. And Sun Hee, can you hear us okay and speak, or?
Sun He should be able to unmute.
Okay, does that sound, can you hear
Yes,
me?
we can hear you. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. I think the blueberry bushes, or, trying to do a little, just, I think as far as, what I'm concerned about too, is it's sort of on a hill. And so what about the water and the erosion factor? That's going to be taken care of as well, right?
Yeah, Mike, can you discuss what you're doing for the DEP and
Yeah, and I'll ask if you can unmute maybe Andrew Vardakis, he's a Wood is Soltage's environmental consultant. They conducted a stormwater plan, and we've also filed a notice of intent with Irving Concom. Drew, if you're unmuted, you need to speak a bit more about the technical side of that.
Yeah, I'm just getting a little bit of feedback.
Yeah,
But yeah, Drew Vardakis, Vardakis, civil engineer with Wood, formerly AMAC at the time of the submission. Yeah, we submitted a notice of intent to the Conservation Commission, which included a full stormwater report. Looked at the pre-existing condition of the site and also the post-construction condition, taking into consideration the changing ground cover, which was essentially unchanged, being all vegetated. However, we did include some stormwater controls with some infiltration basins at the north end and the south end to mitigate any additional runoff from the site. And then, as Joe mentioned, there's tree clearing ongoing, and there's sediment and erosion controls in place that will control any potential runoff.
Okay.
And we received the order of conditions from the Conservation Commission shortly after the planning board approval back in 2018.
Okay, that sounds good.
and those are good for 3 years, which is what probably our special permit should be too.
Yeah.
By the way, Mike, I think that at some point, if we have permission, we should actually do something about that particular bylaw. Just to address the fact that the 1 year, wasn't enough. We really do need 3 years. That's my opinion.
Does anybody else have any other questions or concerns?
Mr. Chairman, are you accepting questions from the audience?
Yes, yeah.
Susan has a question regarding water runoff and what that will do to the brook that is fed on her property. Her property is I'm told is the parcel at the corner of Northfield Road and Poplar Mountain.
Would Andrew be able to answer that question?
Yep. Yep, Drew's here again. Yeah, similar to what I was just discussing with the Conservation Commission, the NOI, and the stormwater report. There's a basin at the north end and the south end. So long story short, there will be no impact to that stream. All of the runoff will be controlled on site.
Can we see that property again? That corner, please? Where are we talking about now?
So I believe the stream referenced is marked on our site plan here near the southern edge. Drew, correct me if I'm wrong, to equate where that is approximately on the Google Earth. It's likely this depression in the topography.
Okay.
Correct. That was my understanding of the question, that southern stream, which will have no impact to.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions? The Moonlight mentioned one other condition that just came up in the last week. One of the requirements under the is that we minimize the effects upon historic and other cultural resources. And David Bruhl has mentioned that there are, in his opinion, in Native American artifacts could be in that area. And they're recommending that we have a tribal monitor present during the construction. And I want to discuss that a little bit, what the board members felt. I guess they did find quite a few things up on the ridge when they were doing construction, when Northern Light was doing construction up there. They have found quite a few artifacts. So he feels it is quite a sensitive area, and it had a lot of travel by the Native Americans.
Yep, this is Drew Vardakis again. Having connection issue. Hold on one second.
Yeah, I can hear you, Drew, just so you know.
Yep. So as we noted in the application, we submitted a project notification form to the Mass Historical Commission back during the original permitting process in March 2018. And they review these applications for any historical significance. And their standard procedure is to review these applications and issue comment or notice within 30 days. We did not receive any comments on this project, and to confirm, we reached out via phone and email, and they said back to us the project had been reviewed and there were no comments. Therefore, there was no further communication from Mass Historical Commission.
This may be, Brian, do you have more information? But I think this may be more recent due to some of the surveys that were done. And I believe there's more information now than 2 years ago. That's my feeling from what David's telling me. Can you add to that, Brian, at all, or?
I don't have all the information on that. I just know that as the archaeological preservation officer, that Mr. Bruhl has been working on this issue along the Connecticut River Basin and along many sites in our area. And that this is something that has come up, but I don't know of particular surveys that I can reference at this moment.
Can I just step in, Mike? Do you happen to have David Bruhl email? I mean, that would probably be. We don't have to speculate. We can say exactly what he said. And I think he referenced something more recent than the 2-year agreement. I just happened to read it this morning or whenever he sent it.
Right, I think that there's a request perhaps to have a monitor, a native, Native American monitor there so that they can oversee.
Yeah, that was the general idea.
Yeah, just in case they came across any more artifacts that they could preserve.
Well, I had some questions to go with that. Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
I can read a little bit from one of the emails. Mark Andrews of the Wampanoag did point out to me that he felt the site is highly sensitive from an archaeological point of view. Probably does not need a survey as done as the French king, by having a tribal officer on hand during ground disturbances should satisfy concerns. So he and Mark Andrews both feel that it's a sensitive area. Is that enough, Moonlight, or do you?
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. I mean, if people want to see get what the email said, I think they could, but I think that says enough that there needs to be some monitoring, a little bit. What do you think, Deb?
Hold on, I'm taking minutes too, so. I tend to agree with David, and in this aspect, I would say that David is the appropriate person to kind of be making this decision. And if he feels that there could be something of significance there, then I feel that this is a step we need to take.
Okay.
Sun-Hee, your feelings?
If there is a tribal, what do you call it, a tribal leader or tribal, not a leader, but
Monitor or officer, I think we call it.
tribal monitor there, I think that would, dot the i's and cross the t's, and I think that would be a good thing. If that's, just to make sure that everything's, that everyone's thought of everyone, I suppose, to make everyone somewhat happy overall.
I do have
It
some
sounds
questions.
like you're all in agreement, and I feel that way too. And Brian, if the board wants to, we can add a condition with the understand that the applicant assents to it, giving up their right to legal. Do you have the right wording there? Legal rebuttal. That kind of the.
So, Mr. Chairman, the planning board has the ability to put those conditions on your special permit. That's correct. The recommendation was, as a friendly matter, to ask the applicant, if you were to go down this road, to ask the applicant to assent to this condition.
Right.
And not contest.
But there are some questions that before we go on, I'd like to ask so that they can all be covered at the same time, I guess. One of the questions is, what does this look like? I mean, what does the officer actually do, and where are they? Can anybody tell me?
Well, David gave me some information. They catalog any artifacts that are found. That's one of the things they do. I don't know of everything else they do.
Okay.
Right, like tools, for example, or perhaps earthenware, or
Right.
things like that, right? The clothes, maybe, I don't know, whatever exists. I mean, whatever didn't disintegrate, right, over a period of time.
So my second question is, what is the pay? Is there a pay involved in it, and how much is it?
I think that would be normally covered by the applicant. Brian, you could, but there is a charge, a charge for the tribal officer. David, I believe it's, I think he said $90 an hour or something like that. So it's quite a bit of money.
And so the last question is, how long is this going to exist at, at the applicant's expense? What, 2 hours, 10 hours, 20 hours, 40?
It said during construction. I would think when you're moving ground, and I don't know how many hours that's going to be.
And if I may speak up as the applicant, our opinion is we do see this as a bit of a burden. We understand the interest in it, in preserving native artifacts. I think it's worth mentioning that this property where the array will be sited has been farmed and tilled for many decades, and disturbed in that sense. The extent to the site work that we do, apart from the road, which we talked about, the access road that's gravel, the retention basins, is we pile drive posts into the ground. We don't remove soils. We won't be taking the soils out the property or any artifacts in them. And so that the property is predominantly preserved the way it is in its current condition with the solar array installed onto it.
So the main soil removal would be the catch basins. Is that what I'm hearing?
Right.
So it
And
might
it's not
be.
so, sorry, go ahead.
We could restrict it to when you're removing the ground, because when you're pile driving in those stakes, there's not anything you're going to find, correct? It would be if you were going to remove ground. So I would think that it would be during ground removal construction that they would want a tribal member there. So I would be willing to, make it that narrow a window.
But didn't we condition this as part of the other solar project in town?
Yes, we did. We didn't, at that time, we said work with them, and they did a survey and they dug a bunch of, they did a survey and they dug 100 holes and they didn't find any, and they, from what I understand, the survey has shown a lot more history in the area than we knew 2 years ago. So by doing that solar project, we learned a lot. So yes, we have asked other people to do things, and I think if we restricted it to when they're actually removing ground, it wouldn't be as big a burden, like you said, Moonlight, for the whole project.
Yeah, I would think that I understand the burden of having a tribal officer there, but I think we could minimize it to the place that if you're digging holes that we need to know about, then that's when the tribal officers should be there. And if it's just above ground construction, I think that we could do without the officer being there. So there has to be some some guidelines and some leadways to make that happen so that everybody is happy with that, Mike.
Well, I guess my concern is for something like this, we need to make sure that we're applying it the same project to project to project.
Uh-huh.
So if we blanket applied it to other projects and said you have to have the tribal monitor present because we believe this to be an area of significance, then I feel that it should be applied to this project in that same fashion.
Okay.
We should bring attention to the board that the basin work, that's part of the work that has been initiated. And so perhaps we should have the tribal member inspect that work that's been completed.
Yes, I think that if that's going to be where you're going to remove the most soil ground, that would be, I would think so, yeah. I would like to make that, a condition that for where you're going to remove ground, that the tribal officer be present.
But I think Mike Zimmer is saying that work has already been done. Is that correct?
Right, right. So they should come in and inspect it, what's been done.
Right.
This has all been going on pretty quick. I go by every day. I see work, being done.
Yeah, Joe, can you just confirm exactly what's been done? And then we can maybe create kind of a scope of what the tribal member could inspect.
Sure. Yeah,
most significant site disturbance has happened, and we understand the interest to have this individual out there. So go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, we've just done the site work that we were given the go-ahead by the Franklin County Building Inspector, and that was just the access road, track out pad, tree clearing, and the retention basins. So with that said, if the tribal inspector needs to go out there and inspect the work that's done, we can make that happen, and then there shouldn't be any other grading or earth disturbances throughout the rest of the project. It'll just be pounding the posts for the structural work, and then that should be it.
How about the trees, the roots where the trees are? What happens there?
They're not doing any grubbing. They're just leaving the stumps as it is.
Would you say how much of an area was already cleared so far? I mean, was it significant? Was it a little bit?
The work that's been done, I'm not sure on how much tree clearing's been done right now. I'd have to confirm with the contractor.
Okay, I'm looking at the land here, and I'm just wondering, what are we talking about in terms of land? Okay.
Basin, I think, could you show maybe where the basins are that they've done already on the land?
Right. So the limit of the tree clearing, again, it is this hash line. I know it's probably challenging to see if you follow my cursor. There's a basin in the south here, and a basin in the north up here.
So basins aren't very large, really. I mean, what's the dimensions of each basin? Would that be?
Oh, I don't think we have. Drew or Joe, could you estimate the length and width of the basins?
Yep, this is Drew.
I'm not sure.
I'm sorry, Joe. Yeah,
Okay.
This is just going off the bar scale. It's roughly 20 feet by 50 feet or so. Just a rough estimate.
Well, that should, I mean, I think that's a good time to get the tribal officer in there to look at what's been done. And then when they're driving the stakes in for the solar panels, there's not going to be any earth coming up. So I think if they inspect those two areas, we should be okay. So I'd like to make a condition, add a condition that a tribal officer be present to look over the two drainage basins that have already been dug, I guess.
If you need it, I'll second it.
All in favor of that condition?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Sunhee on?
Yeah, aye. Can you hear me?
Yes, yeah.
Okay,
So, Ryan, maybe you can help me with the wording, but I'd like to recommend that we add a one-year extension to the special permit with the condition that a tribal officer be allowed to view the 2 drainage basins for any artifacts. And can you please say a friendly understanding that the applicant will apply, will not contest? You can, could you say it correctly, Brian? I'm sorry, I didn't quite have it quite right.
I think you got it right. The request is that we're hoping that the applicant would be amenable to that request.
We're amenable to the request, if that's seen on this meeting, but it can also be a condition.
Very good. Well, I'd like to have a vote to approve it with the condition as we just stated for the tribal officer to be present. So I need a roll.
Mr. Chairman,
Yep.
I just want to let you know you do have an additional question in the chat room whenever you're ready to hear that before you close your public hearing.
Okay. Yes, could we please hear that?
Okay, the question again is from Susan. And the question is regarding the runoff or the water that will come from the new catch basins that are being installed. And the question reads, the catch basins are uphill, we are downhill. Again, the property in question is across the street at the corner of Northfield Road and Poplar Mountain. And the concern is that water runs downhill. So the concern is the impact on the drainage or it's described as a gorge in her question, where water runs across their property and what the impact will be.
I'll ask Drew to explain kind of how the calculations work to maintain the kind of current conditions with the catch basins. Drew, if you're able to answer that.
Yep, Drew Vardakis again with Wood. Yeah, so the stormwater basins, they're actually called infiltration basins, so they're designed to infiltrate water into the ground and not have a spillway where water spills over. So there won't be any overflowing water coming off the property or running down the street. There's good soils there, and basically the basins are designed to take any excess water, catch it, and then infiltrate it into the ground as if it were rainwater.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, you previously had a hand raised from Jackie Boyden. I don't know if she still has that question. She does. Jackie, unmute you. You may need to unmute yourself as well. There should be a red icon, Jackie, on your app. There you go.
There we go. Sorry about that. No, my question was just regarding the fact that the field's been used as agricultural use for 60, 70, 80 years, but Mike Zimmerman had already covered that.
Thank you.
Yes, I think, Jackie, that's why we didn't think the first time we didn't believe it was an issue, but now David is recommending we have somebody there. So, and I think he, like Deborah said, he's our expert. So,
Yeah, no, I completely understand.
Jackie, I would also like to say that when we first talked about it, I brought up that it's been farmland for a very long time. And so that it's sort of unlikely that the general land would overturn and you'd find some artifacts. I do, however, think that if we're going to listen to what Deborah said about generally making this something for everybody, that at least some of the property should be looked at if they're going deep enough to find something. But that's about all.
No, I understand completely, and I agree.
Hey, if no other questions, again, I'd like to close the public hearing and then we could take a vote. Do I do that in that order, Brian?
My apologies, I muted myself. Mr. Chairman, I don't see any new questions in the chat room. And if you're going to close the public hearing, I would ask the planning board to make a motion to close the public hearing and vote on that.
Motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Sunhee, you
Like to-
seconded that?
I did. Yes, I
Thank
seconded.
you.
And then make a motion to, to vote to extend the special permit with the one additional condition that a tribal officer be able to view the drainage areas that basins they've done already.
And that's a 1-year extension, right, Mike?
Yes, right now, that's as long as we can extend it.
Okay.
Which I was going to ask about that. Is that a meeting? Is that a separate meeting that we're going to have to change it from 1 to 3 years?
Yeah, that would be rewriting the bylaw. Yeah.
Okay.
Mike, I'll second
So-
that.
Okay. I'll ask all in favor of, we'll have to do a roll call, please. Moonlight, are you in favor of extending the special permit with the condition?
Yes.
Deborah, are you in favor?
Yes.
Sunhee, are you in favor extending 1 year with the special condition?
Yes.
And I'm in favor. So that's a unanimous decision. So thank you very much, everybody, for being part of this during these difficult times. Everybody stay safe.
Thank you, Mike, too, and you stay healthy as well.
And
Thank you.
Mariah, Brian, maybe you can help me get this written and up and to the town clerk. Somehow, I'm not quite sure how to do all that when nothing's open. You know, I was reading the procedure and I think we have like 30 days to get it in writing to the town.
Mr. Chairman, we can help you with that on Monday and we can get it.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Are we done now with the public hearing part of it?
Yes, we are. Yep.
Okay, so I just want to ask, did we decide or did we estimate how many hours or whatever that it was going to take for this officer to do this? I mean, I'm concerned about the dollar amount.
I don't think it's going to take very long. The work's all been done so already, Moonlight. So it's just going in and looking at what's already been done for those 2 drainage basins. So
Okay.
I can't imagine it's going to take too long.
I also I didn't voice it totally, but I think Susan did have a little concern, because if the water, for some reason, overflows just by nature, there's nothing that can stop it from hitting these people's property.
Well, this will give it a good catch. It will prevent that sudden flood. It will help, you know, you're right. If everything gets saturated and it fills, it's going to flow downhill, but they should have taken into consideration, you know, all the flooding that
I
could
hope so.
happen.
Okay.
Well,
May I
we
ask
still
a
have-
question? Sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead, Mike. I was just gonna ask you, I know from working on another project, aren't these kind of catch basins typically designed to handle like a 25-year storm kind of scenario?
Yeah, Drew, what's the threshold that the analysis is done under?
Yeah, typically it's 25-year. I'd have to pull up the NOI, which I can do here in a minute on mute. But yeah, typically it's 25. Sometimes we go beyond to 50 and 100 year. But while you continue, I'll check that on mute.
And my question.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to
I'm
say,
sorry.
Susan said that George communicated her concern correctly, so she was expressing her thanks.
You're quite welcome, Susan.
I just had a question. So, and again, really appreciate everyone's time tonight. The special permit has now been extended for another year. Is that would be a year from today, correct? Not a year from its initial.
Right, a year from when we get you the yes from today,
Okay.
or when the
Wherever
written
that
record
is.
goes to the
Okay.
town clerk.
And then my second question is, I know there's typically a 20-day period. I don't know what the term is
Yeah.
for contests. Does that apply to a permanent extension?
Yes.
Or would we be able to file for it? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, yes, the 20-day period with the town clerk is in effect. So we will record this with the town clerk after the 20 days. It can then go on through the process.
Thank you.
Yep, and this is Drew again, just on the stormwater. Yeah, I just checked the report, and we show that there's no off-site flooding for the 100-year storm.
Thank you.
Thank you, Drew.
Yep.
Well, thank you, Mariah and Brian, putting up with me for this. We made it through it.
Thank you all for making this work online.
Yeah.
Glad it was you, Mike, and not me.
All right. Well, have a great weekend and stay safe and try not to get too bored.
Thank you,
Don't run
everybody.
yet. We need an official motion to adjourn.
Okay.
Go ahead, Deb.
Somebody give me I'll make the motion. Someone give me a second.
I
I'll
second it.
We're all.
Thank you. Stay safe and healthy. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Bye, everybody.
All right, bye, guys.
And I assume we're all in favor for our adjournment.
Yes,
We all are in favor.
all in favor.
Said it, but
Thank
we're all in
you.
favor.
Yep.
Mike?
Yes. Good night.
Good night, guys. Take care.
Good night, everyone. Good night. Bye, guys.